r/entitled parents. My family is pressuring me to give my 23F sister my 28F wedding venue because she needs it more and is pregnant. Part 1. My fiance and I have been together for 8 years and engaged for 3. I was doing my PhD program and was juggling planning the wedding. My fiance took much of that work, but it was perfect because our dream venue was booked till after my graduation. So what we did is book our dream venue 3 years in advance. It really is a beautiful venue. The only slot we got was September of this year. Now, my sister got engaged a few months ago to her fiancé. They were planning on having a spring wedding next year. They had no venue lined up, but had a few vendors lined up as well as a set date. Yesterday, our parents invited us and our significant others to a family barbecue, where my sister announced to our extended family that she is expecting. Everyone was so happy for her, and my brother-in-law, who is a great guy. My nan asked my sister if the wedding was still on the set date or if they were going to wait because of the baby. She said no, that she hoped to move it to September, no big deal. We don't have many out-of-town guests, so they could attend to both weddings, no problem. Nan was happy and asked sister if she needed help planning such a short-notice wedding. My sister then turns around and said, "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was really hoping we could take your venue. I really cannot stress myself too much with planning a wedding while going to maternity classes, and I think it's just so beautiful. It would really mean a lot to me." It went silent, but everyone was looking at me expecting to say, "Yes, of course, everything for my little sister." My brother-in-law looked very uncomfortable and told her that they had talked about this and that it was not okay to put me on the spot. But my sister just said, "Don't be like that. My sister wants to do what's best for me, so it's no big deal, right?" I just said, "Well, it kinda is. I don't know. I have my heart really set on the venue." And then cue the crying. She storms off. Nan tells me that I was being selfish because she needed the venue more than I did. I tried to defend myself, and my mother said, "You waited 3 years. Would it have killed you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for something?" A few comments later, my fiancé got really mad and we left. My sister called me crying and said that it was unfair, that I always get what I want and that I could have done this one thing for her. Dad said it was just a venue and what matters is the person who you're marrying. And he's kind of right, but we've also been planning for this for so long. My fiancé is furious with my family and doesn't even want my sister to come. Now my family is threatening not to come because I'm being selfish and my sister needs it more than me because having a baby is too stressful. Part 2. My brother-in-law called me and apologized for the inconvenience. He told me he had discussed it with my sister and she had told him she would not ask. He is properly mad with her now and warned me that my sister is blaming me for quote-unquote potentially ruining her marriage. My father has sent me about 5 texts along the lines of, "I hope you're happy your sister hasn't stopped crying since yesterday," and so on and so on and so on. My fiancé and I have decided to boot my sister from the bridal party and replace her with my aunt, who is the only family member that took my side. We've not decided whether or not we will invite my family as a whole. Furthermore, my mom took it upon her to tell on us. She called fiancé's parents and told them that it would be best if my sister gets it because she is pregnant, and pre-eclampsia runs in the family, whatever that means. My future father-in-law told them to fuck off and basically ripped my mom a new one for expecting something so ridiculous and that they were going to lose me if they kept playing favorites. So my mom is now crying too and saying that my father-in-law was an ass. This is just getting so pathetic. It seems straight out of a bad soap opera. My in-laws are driving to us currently with some supper and wine and basically told me not to worry and that no matter what happens that they will be my safety net. I cried of happiness. Part 3. So it hasn't been that long, but this post blew up, the hell up. I was expecting only a few answers, but the support was overwhelming. What boggled my mind is that this story flooded over to mainstream media, but let's get to the story. So since this went viral, a lot happened. My sister saw this story while browsing on her Reddit account. She lost her mind. She accused me of painting her like a loony and misinterpreting facts. My sister got wind of the situation due to various media outlets and went on Reddit. She said that I was being unfair, that she is family and that she asked it nicely because she loves me. She also underlines the fact that the opinion of internet strangers doesn't count because family is more important and I should focus on making my family happy. The only text I sent back was this: "I am sorry that you perceived it that way. I did not in any manner distort what happened. As you might notice, I didn't describe your tone or exaggerated anything. Perhaps you have that night different in your mind than I do, but I digress. I'm sick and tired to bending to your will. My whole life I have been your servant and your doormat. Remember all the birthdays I had to share with you because you would throw a tantrum because you didn't get presents? Or when you cried so that I would fill out job applications for you? But the thing that has hurt me most till now is when you ruined my graduation. I'm done. I admit that I also spoiled you, but I will not any longer. If you want to marry so bad before your baby is born, then you could look at Hotel X that offers last minute weddings. I have spent too much time planning my wedding to gift it to you. And if you want to ruin our relationship over this, then go ahead. I will sleep sound and safe knowing that it wasn't my fault. So she only sent me a wow, you must love me so very much, and blocked me. She unblocked me this morning to send me this. Wedding planner. Hello, dear. I got the message from your mother and will proceed with the rebooking of the venue on the spot. However, this will have cost extra as we have to change the names on the contract. Please come by my office tomorrow so we can sign the new contract. Sister. That's great. I'll be there at 9. My parents. My parents haven't actually written me since the thing with my father-in-law. My older brother, yes, I have an older brother, but he lives in another city and wasn't at the barbecue. That's why I didn't mention him. Plus, he initially could not come to the wedding because of work and changed his plans after hearing about the story. Well, he contacted me and wanted to know what happened because he got a weird story from my mom and dad. Mom had told him that I had offered before the barbecue to give up the venue to my sister and that I humiliated her. I told him what really happened, and he had no problem believing me. We talked a lot about our parents' behavior, and he confessed that him moving was partly due to our parents being, and I quote, heads to us. He told me that mom had gotten wind from the post and was mad at me for betraying my family. I haven't written my parents what so many of you advised me to because I have come to terms with the fact that they love my sister more than me, if they love me at all. The wedding. We sat together and put passwords with majority of our vendors and also with the venue directly. We didn't talk to our planner yet, which is why the text of my sister worries me so much. Also, we canceled the catering that my parents paid for, so short term, we won't be able to get a full catering like we wanted to. But all our friends and fiancés' family will help us prepare a buffet, and everyone is going to chip in. That will be our bachelor party. Because we will have to spend more on our food now, we canceled our bachelor parties, and I will have a family and friends cooking session. Thank you again for helping me see how toxic my family is. I will try to sort it out. If they apologize from the bottom of their hearts, they'll be allowed into my wedding, but if not, well, then I still have my brother, who will be walking me down the aisle, and my aunt. Part 4. We called my planner and she was actually really horrified. She told me she hadn't talked to my mother since the day we went to book the venue. She assured me that even if they were to call and say that I wanted it, I had to be present to make any changes. So we informed everyone that will work for us on our wedding and they offered to hire security for that day at a reduced price. I'm really sorry you're going through this, OP, but damn, your family sucks. It's hilariously sadly ironic that your dad says the venue doesn't matter as long as you're marrying the right person. If he truly believed that, he should be telling your spoiled brat sister, not you. And if OP's sister is reading this, you can claim that OP isn't doing this for you despite being family. Well, ask yourself, have you been doing your part as her family? She's been planning this for 3 years and you just want to take it away from her? Is that what family should be doing? She didn't want that venue. She didn't want you to have that venue. Now the follow-up update. So a few days have passed and we luckily have sorted many things out. Passwords are set with the vendors, security has been hired, recipes for the family and friends cookout have been chosen, and I will start therapy soon. Sadly, some upsetting things have happened as well. My sister, of course, is brigading against me on Facebook, making constant passive-aggressive remarks, saying that I made her depressed, etc. I have received many messages from her friends saying that I am a bitch for treating her that way, etc., etc. I won't mention what happened to my brother-in-law. He wants to tell his story once he's ready. I blocked every attempt at online harassment and my sister as well, but 2 days ago, my sister's best friends egged my car. I called the police and my neighbor, whose hobby is to look outside the window and spy on people, identified them too. She is a grumpy lady, but actually very lovely once you get to meet her. Now to the part that has me fuming. After not talking to my parents in several days, they finally called and asked if we could talk things out. I was wary but agreed to meeting them with my fiancé in our apartment. When they arrived, you can tell my mom had been crying, and I honestly felt bad for like 10 whole minutes. Many of you guys said that they probably played favorites to avoid my sister's meltdowns or that she might have been diagnosed with something and that's why they babied her. Well, no. Turns out my sister is, like also many of you suspected, is just an no medical history, no diagnosis, nothing. We started chit-chatting awkwardly, then we began talking about the matter. My father first asked us why we canceled the caterers, to which my fiance responded that we didn't want to have anything that they could hold over our heads. Insert surprise Pikachu face from both of them. Dad acted offended and said he would never, so that to which I said better safe than sorry. My mother continued with calling me disrespectful for talking in that manner to them. I called them disrespectful for all what they had said and done over the last few days. We got in a heated argument about the venue again, to which my father repeated the "it doesn't matter where you get married but the person you are marrying" bullshit. And finally, I gave him the comeback so many of you guys wanted me to give. Yes, Dad, exactly. But isn't it weird how that only applies to me and not my sister? As long as she is marrying brother-in-law, it doesn't matter where, right? It was dead quiet, and my father was red like a tomato and gasping for air like a fish on land. My mother was quietly crying again, so I said, "Well, I'm waiting for your reasoning." My father slapped his hands on the table and went on a rant about family and sacrifices and how a loving family should do what's in their power to make each other happy. I just responded, "Like how you tried to make me happy on my graduation day?" Quiet again. My mother quietly said, "Why do you hate us so much?" I looked at her and said, "I could ask you guys the same thing." Again, nothing. My parents knew that they had fucked up, but they were not ready to admit it. My mother tried to guilt trip me, saying that my sister is miserable, that she hasn't gone out in days because people judge her so much. My father went on a tangent on how my little sister just needs more time and attention because she is the youngest, etc., etc. So basically excusing her behavior. I told them that I felt hurt because I now saw their blatant favoritism, that they didn't even try to conceal the fact that they loved my sister more. My mother tried to say, "That's not true, we love you all the same," but I wasn't having it. I opened up a list I had written on my phone where I had written every point I could remember about them putting my sister before me. It was a very long list. Some had dates to it, some were specific situations. When it was finished, my parents were horrified, betrayed, and near tears. They wanted to start explaining again how I was wrong, but I said that this conversation was leading nowhere. They either set family counseling up for us and apologized to me, or they won't be invited to the wedding. They left and haven't called since. Note, damn, that's crazy. Another note, and now the graduation story. I don't know about you guys, but I need to know what happened at that graduation. All right, so some people asked me for the graduation story I talked about in my last post, and as I'm sick and bored out of my mind, I'll tell you the story. This wasn't too long ago, so I do remember it quite well. It was the day I delivered my thesis and presented it. A German tradition is that once you complete your PhD, you get one of those black graduation caps that have pictures, memes, and little toys that describe you best glued on them. So I also got something I absolutely loved on it. One of the things glued on my cap were gummy worms because I would eat them constantly. We had booked a little hall in the university to celebrate. My fiance and friends had decorated it, provided coffee, snacks, drinks, etc. Also, my fiance had crafted a beautiful cake, one of those that have a self-made marshmallow fondant and a color gradient that went from yellow to pink. Really, really beautiful cake. So eventually, after snacking, talking, and even dancing a bit, it was time for the speeches. My friends and my boss said how proud they were, etc., and then came my fiance. He talked about all my accomplishments in my life up to this point, and my sister absolutely lost it. I mean, she screamed and cried like I had killed her cat. My mom was giving my BF signs to stop his speech and went running towards my sister. My father was already kneeling beside her, calming down. Everybody was kind of lost at this point. My mom came up to me and asked me to do a little speech mentioning the accomplishments of my sister and all that. I asked why. My mom told me about her being rejected from her master's program and that was the reason for her breakdown. I suppose I looked annoyed because my mom snapped and said, "You know what? Forget it." She then told my dad, who had managed to calm my sister down, to take her home. My dad took her by the arm and they started to walk out, and holy hell, as my sister noticed the cake, she lost it again, crying like a maniac, and then she smashing my f***ing cake. Everyone went silent. My dad dragged my sister out without so much apologizing. My mom just muttered, "My poor baby." Then I started crying. My friends and fiance went to cheer me up, but my mom was texting dad to see if my sister was all right. She followed me to the bathroom and reprimanded me for not acting when I saw my sister crying. I told her that I was hurt by the scene. My mom just said that I had to understand my little sister because it was a hard time for her and that she didn't have a fancy graduation like me. She then left, and we tried to keep the celebration going, but it was really not possible anymore. We went home early. When I went to look for my cap, I found that the gummy worm package that was glued to it had been ripped out. As I later found out, that was my sister's doing because she was craving gummy worms. Now, your sister shouldn't feel too bad about not getting into the program she wanted, considering that most respected schools don't typically admit 8-year-olds into their master's programs. It seems like she's incapable of finding happiness in anyone else's success. While you worked incredibly hard, sacrificing countless nights and days of sleep to earn your PhD, what did she do? She cried and made a fuss about your well-deserved achievement. But here's what I don't understand. How are you still talking to them when they've been insulting you? If your sister and parents end up attending your wedding, there's a real concern that they might behave in a similar manner and potentially ruin what should be a truly special day.